Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. I am back for a brand new episode. Awesome guest, has not been on before, but we've talked a little bit about a few things with AI and HR and podcasting and a brand new Roku channel. So I am thrilled to have the one and only David Turetsky on Speakeasy HR.
Thank
Welcome.
Thank you, David.
How
How
are you
are you?
today?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been fortunate enough to, like I said, connect over the last maybe 6 months, a little bit more than before, and it's led up to this discussion today and just a lot of things that we're going to dive into and why HR is the big scary issue for HR in 2026 is not AI.
Yes, it is
So I'm
not.
excited to dive in. So if you want to tell everybody about yourself, we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. We are obviously going to dive into this topic, but if you want to tell everybody about yourself, your background, and kind of what you've been working on.
Sure. So, David Turetsky, I've been in the human resources and compensation world for over 35 years. Um, I think most of that time has been about trying to take data and make it into intelligence, into knowledge. So, whether I was in compensation as a practitioner, as a consultant, as an entrepreneur, it was always about trying to take my econometrics background from college and turn it into something cool, something where managers can say, "Hey, that's the reason why HR should exist because I learned something or I used something today." And employees could say, "Wow, my company loves me because they're treating me better. They're listening to me." That's been my world. And in the last 6 months, my world has changed a lot. Now I have HR Data Labs Consulting, I have HR Data Labs Tech, and now I have the HR channel, which is, as you mentioned, the Speakeasy HR is part of the HR channel on live on Roku and Fire TV. And it's just been a crazy, awesome journey. And I don't think I've ever had such a really cool time in the last few months of just spinning up a new company.
Yeah, got to give you that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that actually made my day.
Well, I'm glad. I try to bring joy to everybody with the mini air horn. So if
I
you don't have one,
I
it's
need
so
one.
fun to walk around and just have it at work and at home and on this. So it's a great pickup.
I think my
So
dogs would love that.
right. So tell us about the HR channel. I again am fortunate to be a part of that small group that you have. So it might have been an idea that you've had for a while, and I'm excited to see where this goes, man. So what's
Yeah.
the HR channel?
Well, it first started as a way of being able to take the podcast and be able to monetize them by putting them on a channel in people's living rooms where HR can sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to outstanding voices like yourself, David, and be able to not only learn something, but chill while they're doing it, just like as if they were sitting in the speakeasy. And it evolved a little bit to become a media company where we're going to be doing in person, I guess you could say conferences, mini conferences where experts like yourself will be able to talk directly to your audience. And we're going to go and do, I guess you could say, these mini conferences around the US first, and then maybe globally, but have two or three experts like yourself speaking in front of their audience, having conversations, and then doing a networking event afterwards. So you could really kind of press the flesh and really understand what they need and, maybe get some clients out of it too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And several others on the HR channel already have either been prior guests. So Mark Lane was on last week. He's got Ghosted by the Machine,
Yeah.
and several others that have been on Speakeasy HR that are on Work Defined Community
Mhm.
for podcasts. So if you're familiar with those personalities and have been a prior listener, viewer of Speakeasy HR, I would strongly suggest to go out there and see
Yeah.
what is available now and what we'll be bringing out in the future. So there's a QR code on the screen that's to the website. You can go check that out, and super excited to be a part of this. And so again, it seems like just people coming on. Mark, thank you. Indeed, HR channel will be so cool. So we have
Mhm.
people. I don't know. Like I know people in HR are burned out, and I
Yeah.
feel like we can be potentially a contributor to helping in their burnout and helping them create and
Oh,
collaborate and have these ideas that we can all learn from. And
oh,
there's
yeah.
so many ways that we can do that. So just getting creative with that and broadening that audience and awareness, I think it's gonna be so cool.
I agree with you. In fact, the burnout thing is really real, and I'm gonna have some guests on my podcast talking about burnout, especially in human resources.
Yeah.
And if you didn't burn out during COVID, um, you could be now because of all of the things going on in the world and how that affects our
Yeah.
world in HR.
Yep. And I've been around HR for 20 years, so I've done it through COVID. I'm doing it now, and I work for HR payroll tech company, so
Yeah.
I'm in it in a variety of ways. So, well, thanks for sharing all that, David, and more to come on the HR channel, more to come on what's going to be available with that. So, some of the questions that I ask guests, I really learn from, and it's more about their background and what advice they've been given along the way. So, can you think of maybe the biggest piece of advice you've received along the way in your career?
Yeah, one of them is don't be a jerk. Um,
Don't be.
and I know it sounds like common sense, but one of my absolute mentors, and I love him to death, Tony Marzulli, once told me that you got to see the glass as half full and stop being a half empty person. And that changed my life.
Yeah,
So yeah, don't be a jerk is what I'd say.
I love that. I got to give it again. You keep them going. I'm gonna keep hitting that air horn,
Yeah,
David.
love
I
it.
tell you,
Will do.
the David and David show. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Mark.
David squared.
Um, so yeah, we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you're here, thanks for spending part of your Monday with us. We are very excited to be having this conversation. So if you have any questions as we're live, ask them, put them in the chat, and would love to hear from you. So, okay, world famous envelope icebreaker game is next, David. So think of a number 1 through 15, and we're gonna get to it.
10.
You already had the number. I didn't
I
even have
have the
to
number,
ask
number
or,
10.
uh,
Yeah.
wait very long. So you picked 10.
You
You even had it before
gotta
the
be
transition.
decisive, David. You gotta be decisive.
10. Okay.
Uh-oh.
You're in charge of renaming HR. What's the funniest yet oddly accurate title you'd give it?
Oh my goodness. Um,
What do we
what's fascinating is, I worked for Morgan Stanley in the early '90s, and we went through a renaming, and we called ourselves the Office of Development,
Okay.
which is OOD. And I worked for and I was the compensation manager internationally, and we were the London Office of Development. So what were we? Lewd.
Lewd.
So I don't have to I didn't have to create that one. No, it was already there for me. Yes, yes. That
That
was
is awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome. Okay. Well, good. I always love to play that. There's so many good questions in there, and
Yep.
um, sometimes they're HR related, sometimes they're completely off the wall. So,
Love
well, thanks
HR.
thanks for spending time through those questions. So, just a couple of comments and messages from our sponsor, payroll partners, and then we're going to dive into your topic, David. So, hang tight. We'll be right back.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, hosting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So look, there's so many different technology platforms out there. They all do about the same thing. So if yours is not working out for you and your team and the service is bad and all the other pain points, connect with me, learn about payroll partners and what we can potentially do for your business. Would love to connect and just hear about your situation. So payrollpartners.net. You can look me up on LinkedIn. Would love to talk. Mark had when I asked the question for you, David, about what would you rename HR, I think this deserves
Yeah, Mark Miller is a genius. If I
Chief Irritating Officer. So if you are in HR, you might be able to relate to Mark with the Chief Irritating Officer. So thank you, Mark, for playing the envelope icebreaker game as part of the audience. So that's awesome. Okay, so the top shelf topic is going very fast. I'm gonna have to slow this baby down. There we go. So when I connected with you, David, just like all the other guests, I really want to find the topic that's going to hit the mark with your background and what you can bring to Speakeasy HR. And so you came up with the big scary issue for HR is not AI in 2026. So let's dive into that. So everyone's talking about AI and HR and just business. Why do you believe HR data is actually the bigger issue right now? And is that the
well,
biggest issue?
the HR data is the biggest issue, and it's the one that we all just ignore. It's hygiene. It's something that we should be looking at every day, but unfortunately, we take it for granted that it's fine. Oh, payroll runs on it, and our or HR IT runs on all this stuff, so it's got to be accurate. We have employee self service, we have manager self service. They're taking care of it. Well, the answer is no, they're not. And if you're using artificial intelligence or if you're using engines that actually read that data, it's reading crap. And I've been in this world for a very long time, and I've produced analyses that have taken me days to create, only to find out that the underlying data was wrong when presented. And going back to my comp analyst days, I've literally spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours redoing work because the data underlying the things that I was trying to build were wrong. And so if you want to base decisions on in artificial intelligence on your data, that's great. That's awesome. Take phase zero. Phase zero is I gotta fix my data.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I feel like every company does something where it like it has the data, but it doesn't work for them in a way that should be just easy and efficient. And they just keep adding systems to try to make it easier and it just makes it harder.
Absolutely.
So what does bad HR data actually look like inside an organization, you think, from like day to day?
What's fascinating is it doesn't look any different from good HR data. Some of the problems is that we have so many multiple systems that are attacking HR problems, recruiting, payroll, time, talent, compensation, that they're all systems of record. And when you have multiple systems of record, one of the most important components of that is keeping them in sync.
Yeah.
Well, how do you keep them in sync? You have to bring them into a data warehouse and they have to look appropriate. They have to look right. They have to be able to jive. And if they don't, what you're doing is you're creating lots of great napkins that you're putting in drawers. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you ever heard of a succession plan that was written at a restaurant, on the back of a napkin? The manager comes back to their desk and they slip it in their drawer. Well, that's what I'm talking about, is that we have lots of napkins and lots of drawers that never see the light of day. And that's the problem. HR data may be perfect or pristine in the recruiting system, but the moment that comes over to the HRIT to become an employee record, it's now dirty.
Yeah.
And I'll give you some examples. One example is job title. You might have the ability in your HRIT to lock down your job table so that job titles aren't created ad nauseum. But when the recruiting system brings over a job title, well, that was created by the recruiter. So plus one. Here's another one that comes over. The job description from the recruiting system is different than the one in the compensation system or the one in your HRIT. Your payroll data typically doesn't have job title. And so when you're trying to do analytics on your payroll system, you can't, or you can't do it well because it's not getting fed job title or job family or job function. Those are just some simple examples where, the music doesn't jive because all of those different systems are playing off different sheet music. So, yikes.
So where do you think companies go wrong first? And I would say, think of it as like different markets. You got a small business, you got a mid-sized business, and a large organization that is, thousands. They all probably go about it in a different way as it comes to being the first way they go wrong. So like from data collection and data storage and usage, like where do most companies go wrong first?
I think one of the biggest problems that companies have great intentions, but they fail in execution. And what I mean by that is they try and do the right things for their employees. They try and give them the promotions when asked for. They try and develop career paths that have been asked for. They respond to managers who say, this person's leaving, I have to give them a counter offer. Well, those are all great. But because there's no process put in place to make sure that all those things that I've just talked about are done in a way that doesn't break the data governance behind them, because of that, what you're doing is you're just starting from a place of good. You're creating the right transactions, but you're doing it in a way that will make your life more difficult down the road. And so, a lot of it comes down to trying to do the right thing, trying to get the transaction complete, trying to keep that employee happy, trying to make the manager happy, trying to get business done.
Yeah.
And then HR looks like this bad person by saying, hey, wait a minute, stop. Before you put that job title in, let's make sure that it belongs in our system. Well, that's HR getting in the way.
Yeah. So why is it so hard for organizations to treat HR data with the same seriousness as like financial data?
That's a great question, David. The reason is because financial data is the language of the investors, right?
Mhm.
It's the language of regulators. There's rules for it. We have GAAP rules, and in many cases we have laws that the CFO will go to jail if they did something wrong. HR is the Wild West. HR doesn't have to worry about that. We have to worry about people getting paid. We have to worry about ADA. We have to worry about, pay equity. We have to make sure that we're doing the right things for people. We have HIPAA. We have lots of regulations, but nothing that talks about making our data pristine. Yes, yes, yes. We have government reporting. Yes, government reporting says it's got to be right. You could get in trouble for not being right. What does right mean? Or all the titles have to be right? We actually have forms for EEO1 where, somebody could say, I don't want to tell you my ethnicity, or I don't want to tell you my race. And that's okay. They don't want to tell you your gender, but that's also okay. But what it means is that our data being supported or being reported to the government isn't exactly right, or it's not useful. And so the problem is that we're not bound by any regulation that says you must have clean HR data. Okay, you might actually report to Wall Street, and if the data is not clean, you might report the wrong things. But that's a decimal point, like a thousandth or 100,000th. That's going to be a problem for you. It's not material, in the words of the Wall Street regulations. It's not material to your operations, and until it becomes material, it's not going to rise to the level of the CEO going, why is our HR data wrong?
And it's funny because one of the biggest pieces of a budget are payroll, workers' comp, benefits, right? 401k. And yes, there are some governance around like
Oh yeah.
offering benefits and offering a 401k and all that. But yeah, it's fascinating. So
But
why
by
is
the
it?
way, sorry, David, but by the way, what you just said, those things need to be pristine. But the one's in a benefit system, one's in a retirement system, and
Yeah,
one's in the payroll system.
yeah,
And they
exactly.
have to be right. But
Right.
when it all comes back together, David,
Looking for the inside scoop on payroll? Whether you're a payroll pro or just curious about your paycheck, we've got two podcasts you cannot miss. It's About Payroll delivers the latest trends for payroll pros, and It's About Your Paycheck is here for employees, breaking down pay and rights in simple terms. Two great shows, two great hosts, and endless insights to keep you informed and empowered. Subscribe now and elevate your payroll knowledge. Brought to you by Work Defined, where payroll meets people.
it's off. It's off by a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I have seen it really close in what I do on a day-to-day basis now, what our clients see day to day, and integrations are so key and critical to the 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 effectiveness of a system and the data. So my life's gotten way easier. I was a prospect before I joined Payroll Partners, and I was way inefficient with everything I was doing. It was during COVID. I was with a much different environment than I am now, but our data was horrible. Our systems were horrible. We had payroll every Friday. And I hated walking in and having people at my door like saying, "Hey, my payroll's wrong. I didn't get paid right." It's like a revolving cycle every week. And then
Oh,
I had to use most of my Friday, which is usually supposed to be your favorite day of the week. It's my least favorite day of the week because everyone was usually mad about their payroll being wrong. And I was trying to find a way to pay them right.
right.
So, you're not only talking about data, you're talking about payroll being wrong. And it's the
Mm.
effectiveness of like having someone's paycheck getting right and trusting them to have your payroll right. So it just, I've experienced that firsthand, and now I get to really see it on my end now with our technology offered to businesses. So,
Mm.
what role should HR leaders play in improving data literacy across the organizations?
That's a great question. I think that most HR leaders allow their individual silos to manage across themselves, try and coordinate across themselves.
Yeah.
My advice as an HR leader would be to tell your teams to get together and figure out what is it that we're not doing? What is it that might seem like it's okay for right now, but we've got to clean up. I'll
Yeah.
tell you things like the job table, the organization tables, the key data that we have, the demographic data about our employees. It all matters. And because each one owns their own siloed piece of this, they may even own their own system of record. They may actually have one technology like a Workday or an ADP Workforce Now or another system that actually runs the whole thing from soup to nuts. But still there are these problems in the data. So
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily need to be a best of breed problem versus a all-in-one system problem. It could be both.
Right.
Have your people sit down and talk about what does good look like and how do we get there and how do we maintain it. I've worked as part of HR Data Labs. I've worked on a lot of companies helping them get to a better data outcome for their HR data. But unless you put in place processes that make it sustainable and that keep the HR data pristine as possible, because we're humans, we're always going to make mistakes. The manager doesn't tell HR that they field promoted someone, or that they wanted to give them an increase even though it wasn't allowed at that point, but they gave them an increase in the middle of a pay period. um, that stuff happens. We're human and we make mistakes, and miscommunications happen, but we've got to try and minimize them. So my advice is try and minimize them by creating sustainable processes that make your data live and create hygiene. What is it that they say when the clocks fall back or when they roll forward? Change your battery on your fire alarms.
Yep.
That's basic hygiene for keeping your family safe. All I'm saying is try and find ways of building that kind of a process where, we're doing our merit process. Let's clean up our data. We're doing a benefits enrollment. Let's clean up our data. We're merging with another company. Let's clean up our data. Find the ways of being able to put that into your processes, your program templates, so that you can have a sustainable, clean data system.
I'm just gonna do that every time you answer a
Yeah,
question because it's all great. I love this. Okay, David. So how can better HR data storytelling change how executives make decisions?
I've been in the HR analytics space, the people analytics space for over a decade. And the one thing I have always heard from HR executives is I can't tell a story from my data because my data is terrible and I don't know how. And the answer is they won't know how unless they get the good data. First of all, they trust the data. Having trusted data allows you to look at data and then actually ask it really interesting questions like, what are the trends I'm seeing in why people leave? Why do people come to our company? What's the biggest problem that people have before they leave? Those are simple questions that can be answered by looking at data, clean data. If I look at dirty data and it tells me something wrong, it not only puts I hate to use the term egg on the face of the HR people, especially the HR leader. They will become shy of ever opening their mouths again. And they're going to get really mad, especially if they've made pronouncements to the rest of the executive team or they've made pronouncements to their shareholders or owners. You don't want to have that conversation with your head of HR if they've said the wrong thing, especially to Wall Street or especially to their owners, and then they find out it was
Yeah.
wrong. Oh, good Lord. That would be bad.
What do they say? You can't manage what you can't measure.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's yeah. And
Yeah.
the other thing too, and I think a lot of companies use them, are these CRM management platforms, right? So
Mhm.
like you have
Yeah.
clients, you have accounts, you have to track this data, how many times this client calls in, how many tickets they're logging, how many times they're interacting with the service provider. And it's like, it's going to tell you a lot of data, how fast someone responds to that client. If it's within 2 hours, 2 days, 2 months, I've heard some horror stories, and they're like, "Yeah, I've tried to call my payroll company, and I don't get a email back for 3 weeks." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, I guess they don't use data right because that's probably not a good way to treat your customer." It's
Well, and you can bet wild turkey on this, that,
like, right there.
that the sales team and the customer relationship team try and keep that data as pristine as humanly possible because that's their life. That's their bread and butter
Yeah,
right there. And if they don't have accurate data to know when the last time their customer reached out, because they've got multiple people reaching out to them from your company probably, then it's worse than egg on their
yeah,
face. It costs them
yeah,
money. And we all know keeping a client is less expensive than getting a new
mm,
one, right? And the life bread and butter of sales and customer relationship people is that data. And we should feel the same way about our HR
yeah.
data.
So let's talk about total rewards transparency and how does better data support that effort?
Well, I'll tell you how it doesn't. Because if you have dirty data and you don't know what your people do, then when you start providing them with ranges of pay and they say, what job is this for? Because my job doesn't get paid anywhere near that. And if I go talk to my friends in the market, they're earning double this or at least 50% more. Again, that makes you look terrible. And you need to know. And if you're a comp person like I've been, you know that making sure the job description is not 100% accurate because it never is, but if at least it's 80% accurate, then you've got something to talk to somebody about. And we've always heard the story, David, about, is compensation data up to date and recruiters have better data and blah, blah, blah. Right now, it's all noise unless we're sure what jobs we have, we're sure about our markets, we're sure we know the background of our people. So what pay transparency does is it shines this huge spotlight, and we watch the cockroaches scatter in between the bad HR data because we haven't shined a light there, and those cockroaches are bad data.
Yeah.
And when we turn that light and that spotlight on this bad data, and we look and we say, what are we doing here, man? Not to get too passionate about it, but it causes us to say we've got to stop and go back to the beginning and look at our data and try and make amends of what we've made a mess of. If you're in a state that has pay transparency, you know that you've got to get good pristine data about your people and their jobs because the law requires it now. There are regulations requiring it. Like we were talking about before, until that happens, until you've got those regulations until you're forced or required to, you don't.
Yeah.
Now you do.
Yeah. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube with David Turetsky, founder of HR Data Labs, HR Data Lab podcast, part of the Work Defined community, and now the HR channel. So if you are watching live and have a question, throw it in the chat. Mark, I will be a guest soon. Yeah, let's talk.
Mark Miller, my friend.
Let's talk. Would love to talk about what you would bring to this, and anybody else out there. Really, honestly, I've talked to people that have been on podcasts before that have their own podcasts, or mine was the first podcast they went on, and it's been a lot of fun to bring people on that have different perspectives and different experience levels with podcasts. Not that I've got years and years of experience, but it's been a lot of fun the last couple of years doing this. So,
David Noe, you are an outstanding podcast host.
you knew that was coming.
Yes, I did.
I'm telling you, if you don't learn anything today, which obviously you probably will from the mastermind, David Turetsky, get a mini horn.
We need to find where those
So
are
fun.
sold
Especially-
and then sell.
Especially when you're, if you have kids and they like do their chores, like, way to go, Matt. My kids think it's hilarious. Or your wife, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
My wife is great. She's my best friend, so I don't have to encourage her too much. But my kids are not always on board with doing their work. Mark, okay, maybe before you look at the data, you might need to look at the existing workflow and process steps.
Yeah, we talked about that, David. You can't have a sustainable set of good data without having the right processes in place to ensure that it's going to stay good, whatever good means. But you need to make sure those processes are in place. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of money with good consultants like HR Data Labs or payroll partners, and you're going to have to call them back again. Not that that's a bad thing. You can call me back every year if you'd like, but I'd rather you create a sustainable methodology of having great data and do it once.
Yeah, and I think the problem too is you have to keep up on it. If the data is right today, how fast is it going to be outdated?
Yeah.
So like you were talking about replacing your batteries and your smoke detectors, right? When your clocks change. It's a great way of putting it, I didn't really think about it since you brought it up, but yeah, are you doing annual audits to your files, either personal files for their staff, for your whatever, beneficiary forms for the staff, benefits, all that. Like, there's a lot of audits you should probably be doing as a business. Is it part of your workflow every year? I don't know.
It probably is. Like if you're doing your 1095 forms, CHC 1095s, you probably do need to make sure that your beneficiaries are up to date and you have all the appropriate addresses for your employees. So when you send it out to them, in the old days, we used to send these through snail mail. I think they still do. I think it's still a requirement.
Yep.
The address has to be accurate and the data in that form has to be accurate. So you got to do an audit on that. And as I said before, when you're doing your merit processes, your data has to be accurate. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
you're going to waste a lot of money and time.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to leave you with this question, David. If you could give HR leaders one practical step to strengthen their data foundation in the next 90 days, what would it be?
Have that meeting with your staff, have that meeting with your team, have them sit down, talk to them about working together and creating a sustainable HR data governance strategy. It's not one person's to own. It's not the HRIT manager. It's all of their job to own it. Have them sit down, have them talk it through, and have them talk together and work together to create that sustainable plan.
Yeah,
And if they need to, call you or me, and we'll help them do it.
absolutely. Would love to hear from people and hear what they have going on with their payroll and HR data systems, setups. Would love to talk. So Speakeasy HR is part of the brand new HR channel, as we talked earlier in the episode. So it is live. There we go. The HR channel. So you can go to Roku, Amazon Fire TV, go to this QR code on the screen and check it out. More to come. More to come with this project that I'm a part of with David and others like Mark Lane and some other fantastic podcasts out there. So if you are not aware of it, hopefully this helped, and would love to hear what you think about it and what else you're looking for, right? What else you're looking for. Um, I do have a great all day conference coming up in April the 30th in 10 days. It is the HR Collaborative in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to be live with 2 episodes with Speakeasy HR, interviewing all 11 speakers. We have 2 keynotes. We have HR credits. We have fantastic people from the region coming to speak on several awesome topics, and would love for you to be there if you are within a 1 or 2 hour radius of Cincinnati. It's worth your time. I promise you. It's one of the best all day events that I'm familiar with, unless you go to another HR conference, and maybe there's going to be an HR channel conference in the future to go to. So
Yep.
more opportunities like that out there. So yeah, go to HR Collaborative. It's hr-collaborative.org. Check it out. Look at the speaker list. There's going to be a bourbon tasting at the end of the day with my fantastic group at Wenzel, just to throw them out there. We're going to have a bourbon tasting. So if you like bourbon or happy hours, that's part of the end of the day. So it'll be wrapping up the conference. So anything else you want to add to it, David, that we didn't bring up, or anything else that you really want people to know?
No, I really applaud you, David. You're one of the best voices in the HR world, and I love listening to Speakeasy HR. I learn something every time I do, and I appreciate you being a part of the HR channel. And as you said, looking forward to many years of many in-person events with the HR channel lives,
Yeah.
and talking to people and hearing what they have to say.
Yeah. No, this has been awesome. I greatly appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of balls in the air with all of your work and all your projects. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
One day at a time, and excited to be a part of that ride with you with HR channel. So appreciate everyone tuning in and learning with me and hearing this air horn just a few times. And I hope everyone has a fantastic Monday. It's springtime, the weather's changing, and I'm just excited for the next several months with everything that we have going on. So David, appreciate your time today, my friend, and we
Thank
will
you,
be
David.
chatting with you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, and appreciate your time, bud.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Cheers.